We all rely on farmers and ranchers, but farming is riskier than other businesses out there. Crop insurance helps farmers manage their risk. With crop insurance, farmers put skin in the game by paying premiums and shouldering deductibles. That keeps taxpayers from having to pick up the whole bill every time disaster strikes. Today, about 90% of U.S. farmland is insured, providing $100 billion in protection to more than 130 different kinds of crops. It's a testament to the program's success.
Thank you for joining us for our Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. I'm Spencer Chase, joined as always by Agri-Pulse Senior Editor Phil Brasher, discussing the week that was, agriculturally speaking, in Washington, D.C. And the biggest news to come out of Washington, D.C. agricultural circles this week has to be cotton and dairy language worked into a budget deal on the Senate side of things here on Capitol Hill. Huge ramifications potentially throughout the rest of 2018, and Phil and I are going to unpack that here a little bit for you. So, Phil, as we look strictly at the text of what we're seeing, what was unveiled in terms of cotton and dairy language in this deal?
Well, it's the culmination of a lot of lobbying that's gone on for, in the case of cotton growers, for 2 or 3 years in terms of trying. They did not get into the price loss coverage in the 2014 Farm Bill coming out of the Brazil WTO case. They decided to go just with crop insurance. That didn't work out with what happened to markets. They've been working on Congress, working on USDA. Finally, it's here in this budget deal. Similarly with dairy producers, the margin protection program just did not provide the payments, the assistance that they had hoped when the 2014 Farm Bill was passed. They got some significant changes in this bill. And probably the most important thing is they didn't have to offset the cost of it just because of the way the appropriations rules are. You can spend money all you want outside of that fiscal year that's the appropriations bill is actually written for. And so they essentially created new funding for dairy for the Farm Bill in this budget deal.
So I imagine if you and I were to step into the shoes of folks that are going to be charged with writing the 2018 Farm Bill, they're going to be breathing a huge sigh of relief right now.
Absolutely. The cotton issue is taken care of. They actually offset the cost by making policy changes. They actually rewrote the commodity title of the 2014 Farm Bill in this budget deal. But as you say, they also created a $1.2 billion over 10 years in new funding for dairy that's the agriculture committees won't have to worry about. It's done. They could very well go back in and tweak the policy, but essentially they've got the money. They've tackled the 2 biggest challenges that they had going into the Farm Bill, and that's cotton and dairy.
And Phil, we were talking before we pressed record on this video here, a question that you mentioned it. These are the 2 biggest issues, bar none, going into the Farm Bill. Everyone agreed with that, from folks from cotton country to folks from grain country. These were the biggest issues here. So I'm going to ask you to pontificate and put on your pundit hat for a second here. What does this do in terms of the desire for people to try and write a Farm Bill here throughout the course of 2018?
Well, we lost the political momentum to get a new Farm Bill. That's I guess the basic question you're asking. If you take care of cotton and dairy producers, is there enough motivation in the rest of the ag sector, i.e. in Congress, to get a new Farm Bill done? Well, we'll see. We could point out that there are 37 programs, small programs, but there are 37 programs that are expiring this year that don't have any funding. There's no way for them to continue unless a new Farm Bill provides a new source of funding. So, and those programs are small. Value-added producer grants program is one of them. There's something else that's encouraging the use of fruits and vegetables to food stamp recipients. Very popular programs and have important constituencies in Congress and in the Democratic Conference, actually. And so there are a number of lawmakers that are going to want to see a Farm Bill pass. And there's also still some money on the table, some savings that the agriculture committees know that they have. They didn't spend in this budget deal. So they still have at least some source of money to do some things with. So that needs to get done. So there is that motivation, and significant motivation, to get a farm bill done actually this year.
So the question of political will and the ultimate answer thereof will be answered throughout the course of 2018. We can't give you a firm yes or no on that right now.
But we could get started pretty quickly. I watch for March. I don't think we'll. We only have 1 week basically in February. We'll have a week of recess after that. But on both sides, the House and the Senate, they would really like to start moving a bill before the Easter recess, which starts the last week of March. Really tough schedule in March, but that's the goal.
So some other things outside of just cotton and dairy language were also announced here this week as things, other major farm bill issues, and maybe not even necessarily farm bill issues, but just broader farm policy discussions that were occurring on Capitol Hill. One of them being an extension retroactively of the biodiesel tax credit, a major policy point for biofuel groups, specifically biodiesel producers, looking to extend that tax credit benefit for another year. It was lost at the end of 2016 and was non-existent for the course of 2017. So now it goes back into place for 2017, but is not in place for 2018. Brings back another lobbying push that will have to happen throughout the course of this year. It seems like a kind of a perpetual push that industry has to have.
There's a number of renewable energy tax credits. They don't have much support on the House side. That's the problem. And they do have a lot of support with Senator Grassley in Iowa and others on the Senate side, but it's just a real struggle, a real slog year after year on these tax incentives.
And another provision that was worked into some disaster language regards the livestock indemnity program, which is paid out in the event of natural disasters where livestock are lost due to the disasters. We've seen this used in the case of blizzards. We saw it used last year in the case of wildfires, and the provision was made retroactive to the beginning of 2017, which means the people that lost livestock throughout the course of those horrible wildfires are covered under this retroactive extension.
Right, and very importantly, they also lifted a payment limit. There's a $125,000 payment limit, applies to other programs, applies to this one as well. That was taken off. So there were some ranchers in Kansas, I know, who hit that, exceeded that limit, couldn't get anything over that limit in terms of payments for the cattle they lost. This budget deal is going to take care of that.
So a number of things on the farm policy to-do list were checked off this week, and the potential ramifications thereof throughout the rest of 2018 is going to be an interesting thing to watch as we see how the ramifications and the policies that were discussed this week carry out throughout the rest of the year in terms of what kinds of policy actions we should be looking for. But I think that's going to do it for this week, unless some kind of other major earth-shattering thing has been negotiated as Phil and I sit here and discuss. But I think that's going to do it for this week. So for Phil Brasher, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.